Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich with your tropical update. Our concern for the tropics now really starting to focus more on Laura and less so on Marco. Not that I want to totally write off Marco, but it's really going to be a non-issue for many locations on the Gulf Coast. It's a very weak system. I'm going to show you it real close here. The center is what we call naked. It's basically, there's no storms near the center. It's just a little swirl. There's a big cluster of showers and thunderstorms to the northeast, and there are some winds that are tropical storm force. So it's still a tropical storm technically, but it's very lopsided. It will bring some storm surge and heavy rain to southeast Louisiana, but honestly, something that most of those areas can take. The typical spots that flood probably will. But our attention starts turning to Laura, which has maintained a very healthy structure, even though it's been in close proximity to Hispaniola and Cuba. It's got the potential to become a big storm because it's going to move into an environment that is much more favorable than anything Marco had at any time. So let me show you the visible satellite image first of Laura. You could see there's a circulation under there. It's a little dry on the west side, but the fact that it's got big thunderstorms developing near the center and it's south of Cuba over very warm water, that means the potential is there that it's going to probably be pretty strong by the time it gets to the Gulf of Mexico. And having that jump start is really going to set it off. I'll show you Marco real quickly here. We'll go back to Marco. You could see really naked storm. Look at that little swirl there. There's the mouth of the Mississippi River, New Orleans. There's Mobile. Biloxi's about right there. You could see just not a lot to it. All the storms are hitting the panhandle where there's likely going to be some severe storms. Still have to watch for some tornadoes and water spouts and some heavy rain, but the surge potential is not that bad currently with this system. Now, what's interesting ahead of the system, and I'll show you the track here, this is Laura. Laura's spread in the spaghetti plots is still the middle of Texas to the middle of the Louisiana coast. So anywhere in this range, I would be very wary because I think there's going to be a tendency for this to want to go west a little bit longer and then make that turn. So I'm really starting to grow a little bit more concerned about what's happening on the Texas coast. And I'll show you the forecast track here. Let me put it back up there. For Laura. I'll throw Laura up there. So there's Laura's forecast track. You could see it moving over the western tip of Cuba, and then it's out here in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. That time frame is 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So you're looking right around Wednesday morning, and then Wednesday night, it's right here, and then Thursday morning, it's up here. So you see Houston is in the cone. I definitely would be on guard in the Houston area. There might be shifts there. And remember, these tracks are only where the center is, not where the impacts are. So it's really important to know that because if the center goes here, there will be big impacts well to the east. And if the center goes here, there's impacts on the west side, but not as bad. They're closer to the center. So don't focus so much on that line. And sometimes I really hate even putting the line on there. So sometimes I take the track off completely just because I don't like having the track on there because the cone tells you the area of concern. The center of the storm could be somewhere in there. Now, as far as intensity is concerned, this is the intensity forecast for Laura. Notice most of the intensity brings it up to a Category 2 and a few up to Cat 3. I think Cat 3 is completely possible. In fact, I think it's probably probable based on what we're seeing in some of these guidance because it's moving over a very warm water in the Gulf of Mexico. Let me show you that warm water real quickly. This storm is right here, and it's going to be basically doing this. So this is the loop current, which is the deepest, warmest water in the Atlantic. And then you've got very warm water over here. And there's going to be no wind shear along that whole track. So when it emerges in the Gulf tonight or early tomorrow, everybody on Texas and Louisiana should be on guard and be prepared for a significant hurricane because that potential is going to be there. So let me show you what's steering this thing. I'll move my head up here just a little bit. So what you're looking at here is the 500 millibar chart, and this is kind of what steers it. You could see there's Laura, there's our ridge. There's a weakness that has developed here because Marco is going to leave a little weakness. It's going to move in here and kind of mix up with a little part of the old trough that's there. So there's a weakness right in here. That's where the storm wants to go, and it's also being steered by this strong area of high pressure. Watch the high build to the west into Florida, into the southeast, and then you see that weakness develop. So going east is probably less likely. The fact that we're getting the ridge to be so strong over the southeast, this is why, a lot of people in the Carolinas ask me, are we going to see any impacts? I doubt it because the ridge is going to be on us. Even if this thing curves up here, the ridge will kind of keep us from seeing any rainfall, but this is going to drive it, I think, further west. And the stronger the storm gets, I think the further west it goes because it'll help build that ridge to the north. And it also bigger, stronger storms tend to churn a lot slower. So you tend to see these go a little farther west. So right now, the Texas-Louisiana border is probably a good place to start. But if I'm in Houston or Lake Charles, I am really, really concerned. Even Lafayette, I would be concerned as well, as this moves inland as a pretty significant storm. And then you see it move up into Arkansas, probably rides the Ohio River and Mississippi River up into the Midwest. And notice the ridging over the southeast. So it stays to our northwest here in the Carolinas. The mountains could still potentially get some heavy rain from this, but overall, I think it's probably less likely at this point. And I just quickly want to show you the water vapor loop because it kind of shows how this thing is unfolding. You could see our big ridge building right here. You could see our little pinched off trough, and then you can see that Marco's going to get in there and probably keep this. And Marco's going to help basically lay the groundwork or the track for Laura to follow. Again, it's probably going to follow that weakness that is developed by the combination of the old trough and Marco moving that way. So Marco, in some ways, is going to have a small influence. It's just basically leaving a track for a weakness in the ridge for the storm to follow. Now, another interesting product, and I show this often, is just to show you why we're concerned about this intensity. So you see the track here in the lower left, the intensity guidance spiking. But I want you to look, the shear for the next couple of hours or next couple of days from today through really, the 27th, which is what? The 27th is Thursday morning. So we're talking about early in the morning there, that we're probably talking, less than 10 knots of shear. That's basically no shear. And then look at the water temperatures. The water temperatures actually go up to around 30, 31 degrees Celsius. That's 88, 89, almost 90 degree water. And then the relative humidity is plenty high, about 60%. So for the next 3 days, the environment that Laura is moving into is really what we would be watching and be concerned about, and for rapid intensification. I'm not saying that's going to happen because it's always hard to forecast, but there are a lot of indications pointing towards rapid intensification of this storm, which means that potentially that Laura could jump up to a Cat 3 or 4. I think a Cat 3 is very likely. That's how confident I am. And Cat 4 is an outside chance. So that's why I said, everybody on the Gulf Coast, you need to be ready for this system as it heads your way. Now, one other thing we're looking at here, and I want to show you real quickly, is the storm surge. Based on the guidance today, you could see where the biggest surge is going to be along the coast. So you could see the center, if it's over near Cameron, Louisiana, look how far east the surge is. This is what I'm talking about. We focus on the center. People go, oh, it's going to miss me to the west. And then over here, you've got 6-7 feet of storm surge in, Bayou Lafourche and then up into Chafalaya Bay. All these areas over here just get absolutely clobbered. So the surge could be very, 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 very strong in those areas. Very, very strong southeast winds develop with these storms and pushes all this water in here. So don't let your guard down. Even if you're not near the center, you're talking about some really big potential for some storm surge with this, especially if it gets even stronger than we're forecasting now. And remember, this little shift to the west, if it gets to Houston, Galveston, the Beaumont, Port Arthur, Lake Charles, all those areas potentially could see some significant storm surge. So be weather aware with this on the Gulf Coast. If you have friends or family down there, please do not take Laura lightly. Plan for the worst with this one. Remember, with the pandemic going on, you need to plan way ahead of time. Shelters might not have as many spaces or be open, so you really got to start planning way ahead of time. 3 days really to get ready for this thing. Start doing it right now.